Well, it was really cool. So this house came up, and I think you guys snagged it like the day it got listed. If I recollect, you guys went in because you knew what you wanted. You were clear. You had a business plan. You knew your margin. And if I recollect, like literally it came on the market, and you were like on this together. Is that right?
Yeah, there were 11 offers at the time.
There were 11 offers on this house at the
It
time.
was on the market.
How'd you win it? With 11 offers, how did you win it? Knowing that you didn't want to get outbid, 11 offers out there, how'd you guys win it?
I almost missed our closing deadline. So I was in school and I was like, yeah, I'll do it when I get home. And I get a call from Zach in my calculus class. And he's like, dude, you're going to miss this house if you don't do this in half an hour. So
what'd you do?
I left class.
You left class in the middle of class. You just left your calculus class.
I got up, I ran out, took care of, whatever needed to be done so I didn't lose the house. It was kind of a wake-up call.
Hey, this is JP, and I've got a wild story to tell you here. What happens when you have a dream, a wild dream, very little basis on how you're going to actually create it, make it happen? It's going to take some money, time, and you basically have 4 months to make it happen. I'm going to take you through the craziest story that I just had, where literally my 18-year-old son said, Dad, do you think before college I can learn how to flip a house? Well, what does that take? It takes a mentor. It takes financial literacy. It takes designers. It takes general contractors. It takes finding a house. And all of this while you want to teach great lessons. And wow, here I am sitting here in this house. So what was a dream 162 days later is this amazing reality. And I really want to share the story with you. Obviously, it features my 18-year-old son, so it's deeply personal. But really what this episode's really about for you is what happens when you have that dream or someone important has that dream for you. How do we manifest and make it happen? In this episode, you're going to learn exactly step by step lessons learned that you can make your dream come into a reality. Enjoy the episode. Hi, this is JP Newman on Investing on Purpose, and today I'm super excited. After a long summer, this is going to probably be my favorite episode ever. We've been talking a lot about mentorship, like when you're in a part of your business and you're not sure what to do next. What is the next magical piece of having to figure out to get to the next step, to overcome the next challenge? And it's really cool today because in today's show, you are going to meet my son, Zach Newman, who decided, he came to me, it was a very, very casual conversation. He said to me, Dad, I'm off to college. In fact, he leaves Sunday for university in Miami. And about 6 months ago, I said to him, we're having one of our casual late conversations. And I said, so what do you want to do? You got into college. You don't have much to do. What do you want to do? And he gave me a list of about 5 interesting things. On his list, he said, Dad, could you teach me how to flip a house? Which I thought was a really intriguing question. From that, I literally said, who would be the best mentor? Certainly I could do it, but as a commercialist and apartment guy, as Zach's father, maybe it's better that I get involved in the sidelines. But could I find a mentor for Zach that could teach him the framework of what he really wants to learn? So in this episode today, we're going to go deep. You're going to meet my son, Zach Newman, 18, who has just gone live today. And you're in the house that he bought, and he's going to tell you the story of what it looked like and where it went to. And you're going to hear the story of like, how do you go from a curiosity to manifesting a reality to get to this point today where you're going to list this house of your dreams, manage almost a $200,000 budget, deliver it on time in 162 days. What's it take to do it? And also price it right and not get all the gotchas. How do you do all that? You find the right mentor. And I'm so proud and so happy to introduce you to Zach Cohen, who, by the way, showed up about 6 weeks in my life before my son makes this request. And Zach will tell you his story. And the magic really happened. So the story today is really about how do you manifest when you get stuck? How do you find the right mentor as a mentor or as a mentee? Do you have a question or do you have something you can offer to someone else? And what's that like? So we're going to dive into that. We're also going to talk about financial literacy. I know for most of you out there as entrepreneurs, schools don't teach you all that much about how to do things. They teach you hypotheticals. Everyone knows the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Does it take a father with financial literacy? What are the other ways you can actually yourself, or even if you have kids, teach them early on? How do you start early on a track towards financial literacy? And we're going to explore that today as well. So, guys, welcome to the show today. I am so excited to have you here. So I think, Zach Newman, I'm going to start with you on what was it that day when we were sitting there and you're giving me your list, you're getting ready to go to Miami, freshman in college, parties, all the trappings of a great college life. Why did that come up on your list, or where'd that come from?
I think it was I applied to college pretty early, and I knew where I was going earlier than most of my friends, and I realized I had between December and now to about August, with 8 months of not a lot of responsibility. I was like, I want to earn some money some way. I want to learn some sort of useful skill. And it just kind of came to me. I see what you do with apartments, and I figured it would be good to get a little bit of experience under my belt before I go off to college.
That's great. And let me ask you, like when you go back early in your childhood, that curiosity not only about how to do things, build things, but also like, could this be a business, or could this like make some money? Because I know part of the things you said to me is I want to learn how to do real estate, but it would be nice if I make a profit to be able to have some of my own money. I know for you, you already have a lot of like that feeling of financial responsibility. Like I want it to be my money. Like I want to start doing this more and more on my own. That's something that I know is really important to you. Where does that come from?
Probably growing up, I saw how you built your business pretty much from the ground up. I think watching you go from working in our basement at our old house to, having your office, leading a team and working on these big projects. I was kind of there behind the scenes every step of the way. I saw the way you work and the way you communicate to get stuff done. And I really have always respected that and wanted to be like that. So I figure I'll start my journey early.
One more thing before we jump, because I want to get to Zach Cohen here in a second. So you had a moment during COVID where you saw, do you remember how this happened? Right during COVID, everything gets locked down. Everyone's freaked out. You're no longer in school. You're now at a computer for the next 18 months. And we had this opportunity. We came across everybody was putting a mask on their face. And you and I came across a mask that we thought was kind of special. It had like metal in it and to kill. And what happened? Can you just quickly tell the story? Because that really was your first entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't remember how you discovered this company, but you told me about this. I really liked what they were doing. I thought they had a good message and they were doing the right thing during the pandemic. And I just sent an email. I said, hey, I'd like to be part of your startup business, and can you send me a few masks that I can sell to my friends and family? And I did that for almost a year.
What was it like to make at 13 years old to make $4,000 on your own with no parent money? You just went out there, you figured it out. What was that like for you?
It taught me a lot about hard work, about being self-motivated. I think having as many of those experiences as early as possible has been really important in my personal development, and it was invaluable.
Yeah, pretty incredible. And by the way, my father did. I was selling credit card calculators, and I have to say, I think I earned a little less than that, but it changed me too. And I think I've said to you, like Ferris Bueller days are the days you're not working hard and a check comes in your bank account. I got addicted to that at about 11 years old. And I do think for all you out there who have children or what have you, I think figuring out a business for your kids to do early on is super, super important. Zach Cohen, did you have any experience like that when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, I've been hustling a while.
Yeah? Tell us about one of your hustles.
Well, the earliest hustle that I can remember, my dad told me about it because I actually don't really remember it. I went on like clip art, picture art, and this is like hard because like back in like 1995, 4. I was maybe like 4, 5, and I made a bunch of weird clip art, like just a bunch of garbage on a piece of paper, and then I started going door to door, knocking door to door, and selling the artwork as artwork. And my neighbors paid me. Came home with like $20 or something, and my dad had to go back and return all the money. So that was my first door-to-door sales experience.
That's awesome. It's like, I have a question for you. So Zach makes this request, hey, I want to flip a house. And I'm like, what do I do with that request? I know that I'm not an expert in residential. I'm a commercial real estate guy who focuses mostly on, private money and apartments.
Yeah.
I knew that I didn't want to have a bad experience. And to really be an expert in a market, like a sub-market's so important. So we had just met, you're at 12 Rivers Realty. You moved here how many years ago from Los Angeles?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And you are I've already heard that you were a force to be reckoned with before I even met you.
Thank you.
From my partner.
I try.
He's like, this guy is the way he scrubs a market is like no other. I know in my business, when I look for joint venture partners, I try to find people like you. I'm looking for the young, up and coming person who's just obsessed with finding the angle that the other 99 agents or other 300 agents can't find. So here you are, you're doing super well. You're representing high-end homes. You're doing some flips. And then this guy he just met, not that long ago says, hey, my son wants to flip a house. Was this something, I said, would you be willing, the invitation, would you be willing to meet with him face-to-face and see if you'd even consider it or not? Yeah. What was it like for you? Like you get the phone call from me and I'm like, what was that like for you? What was going through your head as even a possibility of doing that? Were you against doing that? Were you open? Like, what did it feel like?
One of the things they always say is, as you move up, as soon as you can send the elevator down, you should. And
where'd you get that saying from? Was it from your parents, or was that just something you heard through the years?
I read a lot, so just things that you read, just people. It's just it's phrased in a lot of different ways, in different books, and just you hear that there was because obviously when I was a kid, a lot of I didn't do well in school and things like that, but did really well, in the real world, right?
Selling clip art.
Yeah. Just business after business. Like I would do I did a lot of positive reinforcement out in the world, but then a lot of negative reinforcement in school. So it was like sort of, and my dad would be like, oh, you're doing great in this, and this. And then school, it's like, oh, you can't memorize this, and this, and you can't regurgitate it. You're trash. So like, a lot of mixed messages, right? So I would get a lot of positive reinforcement from work-related stuff. So when I was growing up, I wanted to be a video editor forever. So I started editing at a really young age. And I was only able to learn because there wasn't a YouTube or anything like that to look up these types of things. So my dad, had people that he knew in the community and things like that. He said, oh, Zach, he didn't, because my dad didn't know anything about video editing. He's a lawyer. So he would just say, hey, can you, meet my son, this, and this. And my dad would link me up with a bunch of different people that, he would ride bikes with. And they would help me. They'd, take me in, they'd teach me all the stuff. And they were kind of rough and tumble, hardcore entrepreneur guys who would just be like, hey man, everything you're doing is horrible. I'm just letting you know, but this is how you do it. But they, over time sort of mentored me a lot, and that gave me the opportunity to do basically everything that I've been able to do in my life. So if there's an opportunity to help other people in that way, and obviously one of my favorite people that I listen to a lot always says, if you're actually an expert, you can not only do it, but you can teach it, because it's a different skill to teach it than it is to do it. So this was sort of an opportunity and challenge for me is, can you actually do what you say you're going to do? And can you do it under a microscope with other people that are way smarter than you watching over your back? Because, I could tell Zach, this is how you do it, this is how you do that. But then if you do it and you're like, hey, what did, around the kitchen table, it's like, what did Zach tell you to do? And you're like, oh, that's totally wrong. So it was a good opportunity for me. So, to go back to your question is, I thought that, it was a great opportunity. And I think that not only was it a great opportunity for me to, sort of lend a hand to, I think that sort of we became really fast friends, but also under a microscope, to sort of prove my worth.
Great.
And it was a lot of fun.
You guys were like a laser strike. And in fact, if it's okay, I'm going to ask both of you guys to tell the story. Like, so you guys get together around the kitchen. It felt like instant good chemistry. I can feel after all these years, you can tell when something's forced in a business thing versus what's going to work. Force sucks. I have a forced situation right now, and I'm just in the car. And it's like, people always say synergy. Synergy is the worst word. Don't use the word synergy ever, because it's not synergy. You know or you don't know. It's like dating, business relationships. Humans know. So I'm going to ask both of you. So you get it on the kitchen. You guys decide you're going to go on this like journey together. Can you tell us about the journey? Like what happened? Give us a high level, like kind of what happened, the journey you guys went on for the last 162 days.
We kind of just knew. It wasn't so are we really going to do this? We just kind of clicked. And kind of right from the jump, we just started looking around the market, looking to see if there's any kind of opportunity. And we started making offers. And with the first,
But what was it? Like, what was it between you two? Like, what were you looking for? Like tell us when you got to the crossroads of strategy, just give us like on a high level, what were you looking for? Like, what were you targeting?
like in the ideal house, you mean? Or
Yeah, what was it? Because I know you guys missed it. You made offers, you missed. Like, what was it that you guys decided was the strategy?
In the beginning, when we first met, we sort of looked at Austin completely, right? Because it's not like we had, we were, obviously we were going in saying like, hey, if you had unlimited, because it's sort of a good thesis to start investing in, is like, if you had unlimited money, where would you put your money? So we looked at the entire Austin submarket, everywhere urban core, and then we scraped all the data, and we looked and we said, hey, this submarket in South Austin, because we obviously we had goals, right? Without diving in too deep, the goals were this house needs to be, can't do a ton of work. It can't be a year-long renovation. It's got to be pretty quick.
Because he's going to college.
He's going to college. The house has got to sell pretty quick, so it's not going to be able to sit in the market for a year. So you've got to have like houses that, one, are available, two, the renovation won't take a long time, and three, houses are selling at a high velocity, even in a slower market. So and four, I wasn't going to get you into something that I couldn't get you out of, and have to pay the price.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. So like we kind of started there, and then we did the research, and we
kind of narrowed it down.
Yeah. And then, presented it to, the whole team, you and sort of, gut checked us. And then we said, okay, here are the parameters that we're searching in, and then, hit the gas. And then when we were looking, we looked at, the high-end competition, like stuff, pros were doing, and that was really, really good. Stuff that were total misses, where people in the market like, hey, this is what lipstick on a pig means. And then, here's like your base product that you buy. And then here's, and then we're going for something worse than that. Or, here are the options, and here are how different layouts are laid out, and how, so you just got to look at all the different products all out there. So you had a familiar of like what you were going to sell into and what you were going to buy into, and where other people made mistakes.
Zach, one of the things that you do, again, this is the difference, guys. If you want to flip a house or get into real estate, everyone comes to me, oh, real estate looks so easy. I can make so much money. I keep saying it, guys. It's the top 5 or 10% that make the money. Everyone else does not make money. A lot of brokers right now, a lot of agents are they're just going to spill out, because when the going gets tough, they're gone. What I love about Zach, which is why I introduced them, is that Zach takes this, like, he has phone banks. He has people calling owners. He's not just waiting for a for sale sign. He is looking at lots. He is calling owners. He's got people calling people who aren't looking. And they're basically looking for situations that create some kind of like not normal situation where that creates an opportunity. So you're not looking for opportunities on a sign. I know you two went out and you were like literally like putting things in mailboxes and what have you. I also heard you say, Zach, so already think about this. You guys know this. It's all your profits on the buy. If you buy wrong, forget about it. Trust me, after all the real estate that I've done. So your buy is everything. And even in this house, with whatever happens in the market, the buy is everything. It will tell you what you're going to do. There's dumb luck in good markets where the buy doesn't matter. And then everyone thinks they're a real estate genius until they're not, like right now. So we know that doesn't work anymore. But what I heard you say, Zach Cohen, which I thought was interesting, I hear you talking about, I'm an expert in a submarket. So you guys looked at the whole market. You came up with a thesis. You kind of knew what houses sell as far as like what they need to look like. I heard price point, submarket, condition, somewhat the bones of the house. Are the bones as a layout, I've heard you say, good enough to convert as a really, really important thing to do, right?
If you have bad layout and your house isn't, because you can easily buy houses that are like 12 to 1,300 square feet, and you can flip them because the numbers make sense if you look in the market. But if you look at those houses and how fast they sell, those ones don't sell as fast. They don't sell for high.
But again, you guys see the expertise here. Rather than so many people I know have been like, they've been bled because they don't get it. They just go out and think, I'm in real estate. I can just buy low and sell high. What you're talking about is the minutia of understanding everything from like what kind of oven I need to put in, what oven I don't. But also because you're out there, you're not only an investor, you're not only one who personally flips, but you also are an agent out there. So you know exactly you know your buyer and you know your avatar ahead of time. So you're like, you know where to spend the money. There's a lot of precision. It was interesting. I'm going to ask both you guys this question. I was surprised. There was a couple other houses that really met all those criteria. And when you got into a bidding process, you were only about 10,000 on a, how much was this? This home was 500,000? 395. I'm sorry, 395. So when you guys got to homes in this price range, you were only $10,000 off on a couple offers, and you came to the conclusion, pass. And if you're thinking about an overall thing where you think you might be able to make a pro forma of $25,000 to $100,000 on a flip, why would you pass for $10,000?
I think a big thing that I didn't really realize was Zach kind of taught me how important Excel spreadsheets and running the numbers are before you do anything. You have to run the numbers first, and you have to be really, really precise. And even an extra $10,000 can mean you make a little bit of money or you're in the hole. So just kind of like, if even a small difference like that, it can make a world of hurt if you just like kind of go in impulsively and say it might work out in the end. We might save some money down the road. Like there's no might. So it was like we saw an offer, it was 10 or 20,000 too high, and we're like, pass, we're gonna find the right one.
How was it for you emotionally when you got out there and you, quote unquote, your offers got rejected? How was that for you to kind of experience that?
It really wasn't too bad because we knew that we'd find the right one eventually. You just have to be persistent and you have to stay motivated and kind of on top of it.
So I'm in a 2-year drought on multifamily because the market's changed and the numbers don't make sense to me. They're about to. Mm-hmm. But do you know how many deals I've looked at in the last 2 years? And boy, I'm a deal guy. So to go after a 12-year party of doing 19,000 apartment units to go 2 years with nada. I've made a couple offers, they've been rejected. I know that the fundamentals are off. It is really, really hard. But I've also learned through the years that when you buy wrong in the beginning, you're just buying yourself a nonprofit job or a job where it's going to cost you money in the end of the day because you chased it. So I get it, but it takes a tremendous amount of discipline to follow a spreadsheet. And then when it gives you the answer, what most people do when the spreadsheet gives you the answer, they manipulate the formula. So that to get to their answer.
Excel millionaires. Yeah, you don't want to be one.
Would you call it Excel millionaires?
Excel millionaire. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that you're sort of talking about a little bit, and one, I would like to say that, I'm the market expert and I learned all this on my own, but I have a lot of, again, really good mentors and people that are in this market that are very experienced have helped me along the way, understand a lot of things. So I'd like to say that.
They did, but once you learned it, you came into this market by storm because you had the skill set to come in, you knew exactly what to, or either you knew exactly what to do or you knew the right questions to get to the place where you could really be in this top 1% of finding angles and finding deals.
And to be honest, it's just about just experience and just knowing what pain is and not and just not wanting to be right. Like I'd rather be rich than right.
Ooh, I like that. I'd rather be rich than be right.
It's not my saying, but I repeat it all the time.
You know what? It's a good saying.
Yeah. And going back to kind of what we were talking about a little bit with Zach is the reason that I think that we weren't we weren't upset when we weren't getting deals because I was trying to, again, like you trusted me to sort of help mentor Zach in a lot of ways. So the goal was like, I was trying to teach him as many of the lessons I learned the hard way early on. So it's like, hey, we're going to make a lot of these deals and it's going to take a lot of work to do the underwriting. We're going to look at these things. It's going to be a pain and we're going to lose a bunch of them. It's just going to be pain and pain and pain. But I promise you, doing the spreadsheets, sticking to our goal, sticking to the plan, is the most important thing we can do. And I promise you that if you get into the house wrong, it's going to be 500,000 times more painful. And you're going to have to live with that all the way through, no matter what. And it's just all hinging on this one decision, like which house do you buy? And I think that that was why I said I was willing to work with Zach because he was really willing to learn. That was the truth.
Well, it was really cool. So this house came up and I think you guys snagged it like the day it got listed. If I recollect, you guys went in because you knew what you wanted. You were clear. You had a business plan. You knew your margin. And if I recollect, like literally it came on the market and you were like on this together. Is that right?
Yeah. There were 11 offers at the time.
There were 11 offers on this house at the time.
It was on the market.
How'd you win it? With 11 offers, how did you win it? Knowing that you didn't want to get outbid, 11 offers out there, how'd you guys win it?
Matt, just
Come on.
I picked up the phone and I talked to the agent. A lot of it, and that's kind of coming from like the off-market stuff. You call them and you understand what's important to them. You have to, because every single deal, and you've said this in previous podcasts, you can't go in there and try to just like say, I'm going to offer less. And like we learned a lot of, because he's done the door knocking. We've talked to people. It's awesome. It's the best thing ever. But it's horrible. People hate it. But
You learn about rejection.
Correct. Yeah. They want you to die and then you make them a millionaire. It's a lovely cycle. I called the agent. I talked to them. What was important to them? It's like, what's important to you? Do you want this to close fast? Do you want to maximize profit? And obviously there were some things that would scare, in this house that a lot of people would, walk away from that were scary. And I sort of painted that picture like, hey, like we're offering, strong funds. We're going to close. We know what we're getting into. We're experienced. We're not going to mess around and like pretend like, oh, everything's fine. And then come back to you with a change or like, an adjustment in the price or anything like that. It's like, if you sign this, I promise you you're going to get the outcome I promised. And I promise you that other people are going to come in here and they're going to try to retrade you.
So you guarantee the agent, because all an agent really wants to do is get that thing closed. It really doesn't matter for them. They're getting a commission, 5 or 10,000. They just got to represent the client. So what I heard you say is you really communicate a certainty of close and a certainty that you're not going to come and retrade the deal with the potential of falling apart.
Yeah, and there were things that we could do that would give the seller the most at closing, right?
To paint the picture, did you tell the broker that you represent an 18-year-old client?
No, I didn't. I left that.
This big certainty picture, my client's 18.
I tell them the facts. You know what I mean? I just tell them what they need to know.
So Zach, I want to ask you a question, Zach Cohen. So we get to you're like best and final. And you called a meeting with Zach and I, and you said, guys, this is a moment. We're kind of in a margin right now. It's a little higher than I'd like to pay. You even at that moment were like, I could drop this house. I think it's good. I think it's got all the bones, but I could still drop it because I'm still think it might be 7 or 10,000 more than I want to pay. Do you guys want to keep looking? What do you want to do? But then you made an incredible gesture too. Do you remember what your gesture was?
Yeah. I live and die by my own sword. So, I just obviously just cut commissions because the goal is to build longer term relationships and look at I'd rather be tied to the outcome of the finished project than, making money going in.
How many brokers do you think would cut their commission to get it to the right price, to be the right mentor, to get the opportunity? Like, if you were to guess out of 100 brokers and 100 agents in a room, how many would cut their own commission?
I don't know.
I can tell you. Not very many. But Zach, then another moment came where we really bonded, if you remember. Not only did you cut your commission, but then she got really aggressive and tried to cut your commission even more. She tried to take a little more from you for her side. Yeah. And I put my foot down. Yeah. Because one of the things that I've learned is that everybody has to win in the value chain. Like, I so appreciate what you've done. But like, then you needed an advocate at that moment. You were an advocate for Zach Newman. But then I knew there was a moment I needed to step in to be an advocate for you. Yeah. Because it was just clearly, she basically she did something that was not in the contract or not in her word. And she actually, once we called her out on it, I called her out on it, she moved over. So it was just, but like, I think that, again, guys, when you look at deals, and I mean, a lot of my most successful people, Drew Scott said this, and the Property Brothers, he goes, I figure out what the client wants, which you said, I figure what the client wants, and I want to make sure at the end of the day, I don't need to get every cent from them. I need to make the deal work for everybody. And I think what really happened here in some ways was like, from what you said, even this little adjustment that you did, and then there's an adjustment from the other agent, was like, we're all watching out for each other as a team to make sure that it really works out. And I think this idea, if you think you're here to maximize on an Excel spreadsheet, I think that's when the energy gets hanky.
Yeah, and I agree on with everything you said, but I think a lot of it is just making sure that, I guess what you're saying is obviously agents are just, the perception is they get in, they clip their commission and they're out. Obviously one of the reasons I became an agent was because I was in that situation. So I just didn't want to deal with that anymore. But I think a lot of it just comes down to alignment of interests and morals too. I think that's kind of one of the things that I think that we
Alignment of interest and morals. How many people say that when they're flipping homes? Alignment of interest and morals and flipping homes. I don't always hear those in the same sentences.
I don't know. Like I just come from, my dad, he has guys that he's been we're with for 30 years, and you kind of look at people and you look how long the relationships they have with people are, and that's one of the things that I liked about you and your reputation. Obviously I asked, I didn't know so much about you before, but, you look for these long-term, the relationships you have with your partners and everyone that works, at Thrive and things like that. You look for people that have been through cycles and been through things, and you go to battle with people because things are all, and this is one thing that I told Zach early on, is that this is going to suck, dude. Like, this is going to suck. Like, there's going to be days where it's raining, it's cold, or it's hot, and the thing is heavy, and we were moving trash, we were doing all this stuff. Like, it's going to be horrible, but you're not going to do that if you think the guy's going to cut your neck off at the end. So you kind of have to have someone that you can depend on. And I think that was, again, a moment when I was like, hey man, I got my head cut off, and you didn't have to do anything. You could have just said, sorry man, like you should have looked out for yourself, which is true. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was more of like a thing like, oh, this guy's actually got my back. So now I had your back, you proved to me that you had mine, and now we can go to war together.
Totally. We had a funny thing on the way over here. I get a phone call from a guy he's looking to raise money for a charity. And I get on the phone, he goes, you don't remember me, but I sued you in 2003 over your company name. He's like, I sued you. And I'm like, well, it's good to talk to you. But it's funny because I actually remembered it. And it wasn't really a big lawsuit. It was like he was doing my old company name in Oklahoma. And he was just trying to bully me because he's an attorney and that's what he does. And I handled it. I know I handled it very calmly. I just you know what? In the scheme of things, this is not something I'm going to get too ruffled about. Give it to an attorney. Don't puff your chest back. I know when to fight. This wasn't one to fight with. So it's kind of funny because I think he respected me because he was now it's he's actually working on a cool philanthropic thing. And he's like, oh, you were cool. I'm like, and you were a big bully lawyer. But I didn't say this. I'm like, yeah, all good. But who would think that something from 20 years ago would come back to you? But I get it all the time as you get older in your career. Yesterday, someone said to me, JP, we haven't met yet, but I was told to invest with you. Your reputation exceeds you. I called this person. I said, you should invest with JP and Thrive. This is not a solicitation. But so to your point, that when people have got your back and it cements that. So Zach Newman, I want to ask you a question now. So you guys get the house, you win. Give us just a quick thing, what did you learn? What was the process like? If you can just give us an overview of the process. And now you own the house. I think if I recollect, you managed a budget of just about $200,000. You have contractors, you have designers. You've never experienced this before.
Title companies.
Everything.
Tax protests.
Insurance, and then you got utilities.
Insurance, utilities. You're turning utility bills.
All that.
You said something, I'm going to give your experience, but I'm going to remind you, you said something funny to me because I remember you were a little overwhelmed in the beginning, but share your experience.
I really kind of felt, at first I was kind of being thrown into the fire. I was like, I don't know what to expect. We've had our conversations before where you say real estate's not, people think it's really easy and it's not. It's not for the weak. It's not for the people that don't really want to put in 100%. And I was kind of like, yeah, all right, whatever. That's what everyone says. They tell you to work hard. And then I'm in it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about. So the way we kind of had a thing going where we'd meet once a week. We'd have this is what we need to do this week. This is how it's going to get done. And then we'll kind of reconvene just to make sure that we stay on track. We kind of established a roadmap from the beginning of what we're going to do, how we're going to stick to the budget, and how we're going to make it to the end of this project. And at first it was hard because you go through high school and you get an assignment, you're like, oh, I'll kind of half-ass it, I'll do it later. It's just not how the real world works. I almost missed our closing deadline. So I was in school and I was like, yeah, I'll do it when I get home. And I get a call from Zack in my calculus class, and he's like, dude, you're gonna miss this house if you don't do this in half an hour. So
what'd you do?
I I left class.
You left class in the middle of class. You just left your calculus class.
I got up. I ran out. Took care of whatever needed to be done, so I didn't lose the house. It was kind of a wake up call, and after that we kind of, I was like, I kind of realized like you know what you're talking about. Like I'll do what you say, like to reach the best outcome.
We got to share a story. I remember there was a moment when the delivery started coming to the house, like dishwashers were coming, like stuff was coming, and Zach sent you a picture by text, if I recollect, of all these things that were coming that were insecure. Can you like share, both you guys, that experience? What happened in that moment?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the overarching thing was, and I think that towards the end of the process, I think you got it down cold. Because I think the big difference is like school is school pace or just normal life pace, like the pace that just regular, everyday people move at. And then there's a piece that entrepreneurs move at. It's completely different. It's like when things need to get done, then you get done now, and you're the only person that's going to pay the price for that. And we learned that through, keeping track of all of your documents, keeping track of deadlines, keeping track of tracking, of everything. So that's
interest carry too.
Interest carry, everything.
Yeah.
So like every single detail actually matters. Like the details matter. And I think that was one of the things early on. It's like, why does the spreadsheet need to look good? Why is this? Why is that? Why
Details matter. I love that.
It's just like, because the problem is like you can't be good and you can't move fast if you're not in place. Like if your shoes are untied, you can't sprint, right? So I think that you learn that really, really well. And again, going back to having
talking about the text exchange between you two and what happened that night. So all the stuff's by our garage, unsecured, thousands of dollars worth of stuff, and talk about the text exchange between you two early on.
I don't know. You can go. You can lay that one down first.
Oh man. Yeah, I think we just. I mean, this part of just me not knowing how the real world works, and
you said something like, Zach's like, you have a lot of unsecured. You have thousands of dollars unsecured. And I think your first response early on was, I can get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm at dinner. I can just go get it tomorrow. And
Zach's like, it's gonna get stolen if you don't.
Zach, what was your response? Remember your response?
No.
Yeah.
What did I say?
I don't remember exactly.
It was pretty sarcastic. It's like, dude, only if you just
you're
come
right,
tomorrow
right,
if you don't want to see any of your stuff.
Yeah.
All right, you can order it again.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, yeah. Because I guess for me, if I had $10,000 worth of stuff that's just sitting on the curb, I would be a lot more motivated to get it off the curb and somewhere else, because people are breaking into houses to take the stuff. And if it's sitting on the curb, packed up, ready to roll.
And Zach, Newman, if I can share, there was a moment early on in this that it was a moment I wish it was on video. I wish Alex, our producer, was there for the moment. You said to me, you looked very seriously at me. You're like, Dad, I'm pretty stressed out right now. He's like, I've had one job my whole life. It's been school. And I just follow the rules. The bell rings. I just do my thing. Now I've got a college applications and I've got this house. And you're like, no one's ever taught me how to multitask. All of a sudden I'm being expected to multitask into the real world. And you said that they said on top of it, these contractors aren't that reliable. They'll do overruns on you. They'll charge you. He's like it was like bursting the bubble of business of like saying, like, I think what you said to me, these contractors aren't reliable. You really got to watch them. He's like, I think you said, and I thought adults were responsible.
I think I said that not realizing how good our team actually was.
Yeah.
Because you told me a story about how it was like one of your early flips, and you were like almost done with the whole thing, and one of your contractors just left and took all your building permits.
Yep.
And I was and that was like
my worst experience. I was so stressful.
I was freaking out over like something that broke that was like $400, and I was like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? And you told me that story. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. So it was kind of just making mistakes along the way and kind of taking note of what I can do better. This is the real world. This is actually how things work, and just being able to adjust.
Zach, let me ask you, you guys you executed this on time and on budget. You guys, because time kills deals. If you guys don't know this, time kills deals. You overrun your time, that's just your margin being chewed up, and takes a bunch of deals to learn that. So you actually delivered on time. You delivered on budget. I think I would argue a beautiful product. I think Alex is going to show you guys the before and after pictures of what was created here as mastery with the designer, great contractors and everything. And then at the end of the day, the market's turned. So since the 162 days since you guys have bought this, Austin is hit a slump. More houses on inventory. And it looks like we don't know yet because today's the first day we listed. We'll have to have a part 2 to this podcast and we'll see what it goes. But right now, all of a sudden that entire margin, which looked pretty good, that entire margin that you stood to make, which would have been great for college, it was all going to go to college, maybe erased. It might even be slightly negative. It might be slightly positive. We don't know. But it's not the original margin because the market turned that quickly. How does that feel for you? Like what is like you worked hard, you did everything right. Now there's macro market forces bigger than you. Here, as you list the house today, what is that experience for you like?
I think at first I was really frustrated because I felt like I had come really far. I felt like I did everything right, and I still wasn't getting the result that I wanted. And it was kind of a hard pill to swallow at first. And then I realized it's like if I could do everything right and still, either make a little bit of money up, maybe not as much as I would have hoped, but make something in a bad market, then just imagine how easy it is in an easy market. Like I'll just repeat the same process and I'll start kind of getting the results that I want to. And it was more for the experience too. I mean, the money would have been great, but
don't count out yet.
Well,
we're still hoping.
Not yet. But I'm saying the number that I would have liked.
That's not happening.
It's not happening, unfortunately. But I mean, I learned so much, and when the market eventually turns, when it's it's out of our control. But
I also think when you go to business school at University of Miami, you're going to come in actually with some like real experience rather than the textbook things that they're going to teach you. And I think that's pretty cool too. But yeah, but I think there's a lesson in resilience here. Like I can tell you, I think a lot of people count their money. They see the spreadsheet and they count their money ahead of time. The only thing that really matters to me in my experience is the day I sell the property and the day the loan pays me back. And those are my favorite days because I get to pay the investors back. And especially if it's my favorite day if I pay my investors back and make what I told them I'm going to make. Zach, you and I share this in common or more. And that's my Ferris Bueller day because when that happens, I do just fine. Like that just falls in place. So I think that's, let's hope we'll have a quick follow-up on how it's sold. I know you guys have really had a hard time figuring out how to price it, being more aggressive. Austin at this moment has 8 months worth of inventory. And if you don't not familiar with that, that means there's literally for the people looking for houses today, there's about 8 months worth of inventory. And that's considered a buyer's market. Typically what you want to see, I think is it 6 months and under is a seller's market, Zach? Is it 6 or is it less than 6? One's a buyer from a seller's market.
90 days.
Is it 90? I think, yeah. About 90 days, 3 to 6 months is considered more of a seller's market, tight inventory, prices are high, multiple bids, and that's what Austin's been forever. But I think, when your interest rates are starting to hit 7, 8, 9%, it's gotten harder for people to qualify, which is why it's probably one of the reasons why the market slowed down.
Or just afford it.
Because couldn't afford it, right? So you guys have a little window. Interest rates went down. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where that goes. Just wrapping up, guys. This has been such a great conversation. I'm going to kind of wrap this up, but I'd love to hear from both of you guys. A couple more just like thoughts at this moment of like lessons learned from mentorship, from this experience of financial literacy. What do you think some of your takeaways so far are, Zach, from this experience?
I think that having some form of a mentor is just everything. Without Zach and you to kind of guide me through this process, I would have drowned many times over. Like I would have been stuck with a half finished product, totally screwed. It probably would have been unsellable.
Now you see how many.
And now I kind of understand what Zach was saying about once you can move up, you try to pass it down. And at this point, it's kind of just hoping to be able to repeat this process over and over enough times that I can, find someone to teach of my own at some point.
It's amazing. How do you feel about your confidence? Going to a business school at a new university, starting school next week? How do you think this experience is gonna, how do you think it's gonna, with your perception of going to, as a freshman business major, how do you think this experience is gonna land?
I think that there was another really important thing that Zach taught me about deposits and withdrawals in relationships, where if you want to build a long-term relationship with someone, you can't ask for too much without doing enough in return. And I kind of didn't really understand that until I was working with, a designer and a contractor and a whole team. With that, and I like it's definitely motivating people it's hard to master. And I learned a lot from Zach about that. And I think going into business school, entering the workplace and networking and all these things, being able to understand that deposit and withdrawal system is really, really important.
It's amazing. I think it's great. Zach Cohen, any lessons learned from this experience? You've done many homes, so this.
Yeah, I think that, to sort of cap off Zach's comment, I think that one of the things is just like really having an important team. Like the only reason this stuff is possible is because of the whole team. Like you've got designers, Kaylee was a monumentous effort. She was here in the evenings all the time, making sure this, because everyone cared. That's the thing, like deposits and withdrawals, right? A lot of deposits from a lot of people. Like you were really nice to them, so they want to be really nice to you. JP was really sweet and generous. Like you gave them a lot of creative freedom and you trusted them. So they came and showed up for you. Martin came here, showed up for you.
The general contractor
killed himself for you, made this thing jam. All the people that were in here doing the work every single day, really hard. Tim, Mike, all the people at 12 Rivers, like coming in here, making sure that like we were pricing correctly, making sure that things felt right and like flow and everything like that. It was a whole team that was behind you, supporting you. And, yes, I love to be like, oh yeah, I did all this thing. I did everything great. It was, just a big, a network of really, really sweet and generous and hardworking people came together to support you in this. And I just wanted to mention that.
Keep saying, the jockey, guys. Bet on your jockey, and then your success, your ultimate success with whatever company you have is going to be the team you form and your leadership around the team. I was, just to kind of conclude, I talk more and more these days about 4-dimensional wealth. What is wealth beyond money? And this conversation we had is what 4-dimensional wealth is. When you know your reason why you're doing something, there's purpose, community. You actually rely on community, rely on mentorship. And ultimately, you manage your time. I always say time is part of wealth. Of course, the money's great, and the money's a key part. But without these other things, it can be really disastrous. And I think you guys are just kind of like, I'm just so honored and humbled to be part of this process with you. Zach Cohen, my heartfelt thanks and gratitude. I mean, you still got a lot of hard work from watering lawns to selling the house, so we can have part 2. But my heartfelt gratitude for you, just giving it 110%. And willing to train someone else and lift them up the elevator. And I just thank you so much for that. Zach, I am so proud of you, the lessons you've learned, who you are, how you show up. It's beyond a maturity. It's a maturity, but it's an EQ, it's a warmth. And that's why this happens. This is actually a result, Zach, of you at the end of the day. If you were a different attitude, came in with different things, I promise you, energetically, it would be a nightmare. But because you showed up as you're going to create this, and you guys are going to create a profit. I'm going to bet on you guys that you're going to eke something out of this. And I think it's really wonderful. So congratulations. How proud I am of you. And when people ask me, what's it like? Your kid's going off to college. And I can tell you, for any of you out there who either have kids, whether they're 2 years old, 6 years old, or will have kids in the future, your goal as a parent is this. And what I mean by that is all you really want for your kid, from diapers to 6 to 10, all these lessons along the way, Zach, is really that you can have a happy life. You can have 4-dimensional wealth, not just money, but happiness, health, experiences, community. And I'm so at peace. Of course, I'm going to miss seeing you every day a lot, and hanging out and surfing and skiing all the time with you. But there's nothing more in my heart as my father, as your father, that I would want for you than what you have. And I just think you're just going to kill it out there in every single way. And go get them. And I think that's it, guys. That's a wrap.